August 14th, 2022, Georgia State Prison. It started like any other Sunday. A long line of visitors winding through metal detectors, mothers holding babies, wives adjusting their wigs, officers barely glancing up as names were called. At exactly 1:04 p.m., Marcus Delray, inmate NAR 44173, walked into the visitation room, calm, clean-shaven, with a folder of drawings for his fiancée. What happened next would be described as one of the most chaotic, unexplained prison incidents in recent memory. 7 minutes later, alarms were blaring. An officer was face down, his badge torn from his chest. A young woman lay slumped in a chair, her white sweater stained dark red. Guards tackled Marcus as he screamed one sentence again and again. "I saw it with my own eyes." Before we dive deeper, let us know in the comments where you're watching from. We'd love to hear from you. And if you're new here, click on the subscribe button so you never miss any of our upcoming videos. What could make a man snap like that after serving nearly 8 years without a single violent incident behind bars? And who was the officer found dead, the one with a flawless record and 2 decades of experience? More importantly, what exactly did Marcus see? Some called it a love triangle gone wrong. Others believe it was revenge. But those closest to the case think it goes deeper than that. A system that looked the other way, a relationship no one dared question, and a motive that had been quietly building for years. In this documentary, you'll hear from the people who lived through it, the policies that failed to prevent it, and the moment Marcus claims he lost everything. By the end, only one question remains. Was this a spontaneous act of rage, or was it always coming? Before the bloodshed, before the headlines and body bags, there was just Marcus Delray, a former high school football star from Augusta with dreams of going pro. He had speed, hands, and the kind of charm that made coaches fight over him. But after his father died in a car crash when Marcus was 19, everything began to unravel. A brief injury, followed by painkillers, then pills, then meth. Within 2 years, he was holding up gas stations with a .38 Smith Wesson just to feed a habit. That final robbery, the one that got him caught, was sloppy, desperate. He didn't even wear gloves. Sentenced to 12 years at Georgia State Prison, Marcus surprised everyone. He got clean, earned his GED, started teaching younger inmates how to read. For the past 5 years, not one fight, not one write-up. He was up for parole in just 14 months, until everything fell apart. Alana Brooks was the kind of woman people described as too soft for this world. She worked nights as a nurse aide in a retirement home, volunteered at her church's food pantry, and spent her Sundays traveling 3 hours each way to see a man the world told her to forget. She met Marcus through a prison pen pal ministry run by her aunt. At first, it was innocent. A letter every few weeks, then calls, then weekend visits. Within a year, she was calling him her future husband. She wore a ring he made from a toothbrush. Her sisters warned her. Her mother stopped speaking to her. "He's just using you," they'd say. But Alana believed in second chances. "He's not who he was," she told them. "People change." And maybe he had, but in trying to prove everyone wrong, she may have ignored a warning sign that would cost her everything. Officer Darren Mitchell had spent 15 years patrolling the same concrete hallways. He was steady, predictable, the kind of man who never called in sick and knew every inmate's name, favorite snack, and visitation schedule. There were no complaints on his record, no write-ups, no suspensions, just years of smooth performance. But some of the older guards whispered things when he wasn't around. That he smiled a little too long at the women who came to visit. That he knew things he shouldn't, like birthdays, anniversaries, favorite colors. That maybe he was getting too close. Of course, rumors are just that, rumors. But 3 weeks before the murders, something changed. Marcus Delray filed a formal complaint. In it, he claimed that his fiancée, Alana Brooks, had been cornered by a guard during visitation, touched inappropriately, intimidated. He named no one. The report was marked unsubstantiated and shelved. No follow-up, no camera review, no warning sent out. Nothing was done. August 14th, 2022, started like most Sundays. Alana Brooks arrived at Georgia State Prison at exactly 11:40 a.m., just like she had for the past 3 years. She wore a light blue blouse, minimal makeup, and carried a small brown purse. Cleared at the checkpoint, her name was logged, and her ID was scanned. Staff noted her demeanor as calm, respectful, cooperative. But inside the facility, Marcus Delray was not calm. He was pacing, tense. Another inmate, someone he trusted, had pulled him aside that morning. He didn't shout. He didn't provoke. He just said, "You better check your girl. She ain't just coming to see you." No names, no details, but enough to rattle Marcus to the core. It wasn't jealousy. It was confusion, suspicion, and a feeling he couldn't shake, that something wasn't right. By 12:58 p.m., his number was called. He took a breath, straightened his collar, and stepped into the visitation room. The room was crowded, filled with mothers, wives, children, the low hum of vending machines and muffled conversations. Marcus scanned the rows, and there she was, Alana, sitting near the back. She waved, smiled. But something about her eyes looked off. Nervous. She motioned toward the corner. A staff member, later identified as Officer Darren Mitchell, walked over and drew a curtain between their table and the next one. It was a practice that used to be allowed for family privacy, but had recently been restricted due to misconduct concerns. For some reason, the curtain was allowed. What happened behind it would never be fully seen on tape. What Marcus saw, according to multiple reports, was his fiancée, on her knees, between the legs of Officer Mitchell. For 3 full seconds, he says, no one noticed him. No guards, no inmates, no staff. He didn't shout. He didn't run. He reached into his shoe and pulled out a 6-inch homemade shank wrapped in medical tape. What happened next was both fast and brutal. Marcus lunged at Mitchell without a word, driving the blade deep into the side of his neck, twice. Blood sprayed across the chair. The officer collapsed instantly. Alana screamed and tried to run but was caught in the chaos. A rookie guard, Officer Denise Carter, just 24 years old, on her 4th month of duty, rushed into the space to intervene. She pulled her baton, yelled commands. Marcus turned, panicked, and swung. The blade caught her in the abdomen, just below the vest. She fell to the ground, gasping. Inmates screamed. Families ducked. Guards stormed the room. Within 2 minutes, the entire prison was on lockdown. Officer Mitchell was pronounced dead at the scene. Officer Carter died 2 hours later on the operating table. Alana survived, shaken, bleeding, and silent. In her official statement, she claimed she didn't know what happened, that Marcus snapped without warning, that he attacked without provocation. But what the surveillance didn't show was why Alana lied in her statement. And what they later found on her phone changed everything. Within hours of the stabbing, Georgia State Prison was on full lockdown. The Georgia Bureau of Investigation arrived on site by nightfall. No one in, no one out. Every visitor, officer, and inmate from that day was questioned. Surveillance footage was reviewed. Marcus Delray didn't deny what he had done. In fact, according to the first GBI transcript, he confessed almost immediately, but not out of guilt, out of rage. He told investigators that Officer Mitchell had been exploiting Alana, that Mitchell promised to push Marcus's parole paperwork through the system faster, but only if Alana cooperated with him in secret. He claimed that for months, Mitchell used his influence to manipulate both of them. "I wasn't just protecting me," Marcus said. "I was protecting her." But Alana's initial statement painted a different picture. She sat in a gray-walled interrogation room and quietly told agents, "Marcus went crazy. There was nothing going on. He imagined it all." But facts have no loyalty to emotion. And as investigators dug deeper, the truth started peeling itself away from the lies. A small tear on the left sleeve of Alana's dress led to a shocking discovery, semen later confirmed to belong to Officer Darren Mitchell. A second surprise came when agents searched her car parked outside the prison. Wedged beneath the passenger seat was a cheap, prepaid flip phone, the kind not traceable to a specific carrier. On it, hundreds of deleted messages, some recovered, some still hidden. One text, dated 3 weeks before the murder, read, "He thinks I'm only with him. I don't want to hurt him." Another said, "You said you'd help him get early release if I did this." The messages exposed a disturbing and complicated entanglement. Alana had not only been involved with Mitchell, but had seemingly been trading her dignity for Marcus's freedom, all while keeping the truth from both men. Whatever her intentions, her silence had consequences. The public reaction was immediate and vicious. Media outlets branded the story a prison love triangle gone wrong. Cable news anchors debated whether Alana was a victim or a co-conspirator. Prison reform advocates blamed a broken system that allowed unchecked power behind concrete walls. The Correctional Officers Union released a scathing statement blaming the Department of Corrections for failing to enforce clear boundaries between staff and visitors. They demanded swift justice for the fallen officers, but perhaps the loudest voices came from women's rights organizations across the country. They called for charges against Alana Brooks, stating that her willingness to stay silent and possibly lie under oath led directly to the deaths of 2 people. Protests were staged outside the GBI headquarters. Hashtags like Dr. Justice for Denise and ACOS Accountability for Alana trended nationwide. Everyone seemed to have an opinion, but beneath the noise, one truth remained. Someone saw the warning signs and chose to ignore them. If you're still watching, comment, "Prison politics is real." Let's see how deep y'all are into this one. As the trial approached, the public's fascination with the case only deepened. Marcus Del Rey's defense team filed a motion to enter his full written statement into evidence. In it, he claimed that he had tried multiple times to alert prison authorities about Officer Mitchell's behavior. "I told the warden. I told a lieutenant. I filed 2 reports," Marcus wrote. "They said they'd look into it. Then nothing. It was like they wanted me to shut up." Under oath, the warden took the stand and calmly denied ever receiving those reports. But the twist came days later when an anonymous leak from Internal Affairs surfaced online. 3 prior complaints had been filed against Officer Mitchell in the last 5 years, all made by female visitors, all dismissed or quietly marked resolved. The courtroom fell silent as the documents were authenticated. Questions began to swirl. Had Marcus really been ignored? And if so, why? The final blow came during Alana Brooks's testimony. Tearfully, she admitted the affair. She said Mitchell had started contacting her through burner numbers, slipping her notes, pressuring her to meet him outside of visitation. She said he promised to help Marcus if she played along. But then, in a moment that left the courtroom stunned, she admitted something else, that she never told Marcus the truth. "He asked me, more than once. I told him there was nothing going on. I lied because I thought it would protect him. I didn't think it would come to this." The defense attorneys seized the moment, painting Marcus as a man who had been betrayed not once, but twice. First by the woman he loved, then by the system that was supposed to protect both of them. But prosecutors pushed back hard. They labeled him jealous, manipulative, emotionally unstable. They said the stabbing wasn't spontaneous. It was rage, pure and simple, a choice, not a reaction. After 6 days of testimony, 22 witnesses, and nearly 9 hours of deliberation, the jury returned with their verdict. Marcus Del Rey was found guilty of 2 counts of homicide, one for Officer Darren Mitchell and one for Officer Denise Carter, the rookie who had simply rushed in to do her job. Despite emotional testimony from his defense and growing questions about how the prison handled his complaints, the court made its decision clear. Marcus would serve life without the possibility of parole. No appeals were granted, no reduced sentencing. Just a quiet nod from the judge and the sound of chains clinking as Marcus was led away. Alana Brooks, on the other hand, faced lesser charges. She was convicted of perjury for lying under oath and for smuggling an unauthorized phone into the prison. Her sentence was 18 months, of which she served 14. She was released quietly. No interviews, no statements, just silence. But the consequences didn't end there. Officer Mitchell's wife filed a wrongful death lawsuit against the Georgia Department of Corrections, alleging negligence, misconduct cover-ups, and systemic failure. That suit eventually settled for $3.1 million, but no formal apology was ever issued. Behind closed doors, Internal Affairs launched one of the largest audits of visitation room protocols in state history. Several policies were overhauled, curtains were banned, private visitations were suspended. All correctional officers underwent retraining, and hundreds of past incident reports were reopened. What had started as a love story, however unconventional, ended in national headlines, 2 funerals, and a prison system forced to reckon with the rot inside its walls. A broken system, a desperate man, and a lie that triggered a bloodbath. The kind of story that doesn't fade quietly, because it leaves behind a single haunting question. If someone had just listened, really listened, would any of this have happened? Was Marcus Del Rey a monster, or just a man pushed too far by betrayal, silence, and a system that refused to hear him? Was Alana Brooks a victim of manipulation, or did she make a choice that cost innocent people their lives? And Officer Darren Mitchell, was he a man hiding behind a badge, using power for personal gain, or someone caught up in a relationship that should have never happened inside prison walls? The questions aren't easy. The answers don't come quickly. But what happened that day inside the Georgia State Prison visitation room wasn't just about love or rage. It was about control, about silence, about the consequences of what we ignore until it's too late. Did the system fail everyone, or was this inevitable from the moment they met? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I read every single one. And if you've ever worked in corrections, or know someone who has, what are the red flags you've seen? What warning signs go unnoticed? And more importantly, who pays the price when they do? These are real people, real lives. And sometimes it takes looking back at stories like this to understand just how fragile the line between control and collapse really is. And if this story shocked you, wait until you see the case of the prison nurse who married an inmate and was later found dismembered in the prison's laundry chute. That video's right here. This wasn't just a crime of passion. It was a warning. Even behind bars, betrayal bleeds. Subscribe for more real stories that reveal the darkest sides of human nature.